Good evening. Welcome to the end of the weekend. So, tonight, I'm Prospector Jess. I'm going to be talking SourdoughMiner.com, HuntingForGold.com, and we're going to be talking about why is gold so darn hard to find. It's something that I've seen as an undercurrent of, everything. An undercurrent is like you have down the bottom of a sluice box where there's sort of a real gentle current, allows the fine gold to settle out, and sometimes it's the most gold you'll find. But in this case, it has to do with the tension I'm hearing in some of you viewers about something you're asking me in between the words, and that is, why is gold so darn hard to find? And that's a good question, because fundamentally there's a lot of reasons why. And I'm going to poke at those a little bit tonight. That's going to be the subject, and we're going to have it short and sweet. But the idea is there's a handful of reasons why that you should be thinking about. You may already be thinking about them. And there are things that can be done to help solve those. But right now I just wanted to poke at the reasons why gold might be hard to find. One of the things that we already know is gold is precious because it's rare. That is, there isn't much of it on the surface of planet Earth compared to other things. And so that makes it valuable when there's demand for it, which there is, and therefore makes it interesting from a perspective of, the collection effort versus the return on investment for that effort. And so what I'm getting at here is, why is it hard to find that stuff? The rarity is one of the big contributions. It also is one of the big contributions that makes it valuable. So you kind of, you give and take on some of these contributions, because some of them are bad news mixed with good news. The fact that it's rare makes it really valuable. If it were plentiful, like harvesting that asteroid that's out there that has, I forget how many, 20, 60 trillion dollars or 600 trillion dollars, doesn't really matter, worth of platinum and gold on it. There's not likely to be any chance we can go out there and get that easily. But let's say we did, we would see the gold price plummet. Why? Because supply would go up. Supply and demand determines that price. Doesn't matter where you are, it determines that price, because it determines how much effort it takes to find it. And that is one of the factors that, even if you were just to simply say, I'm in a totalitarian government and I set the price, you'd still have to fuel all of that effort to go get it. So, if you're planning on spending a lot of money and just dumping it, that's one thing. But if you're going to get the money you put into, pulling it out, you got to pay for that fuel. So let's say, let's look at, just for a moment, I'm going to check to see if we got everybody on and make sure we have good connections on the internets, and that Facebook is behaving for us. It's been pretty good lately. Sooner or later Murphy's going to strike. I can just feel it. But let's just make sure. So there we are. Why is gold so hard to find? And there you are. A bunch of you are already on. So good. So down below you can start commenting on why you think gold is hard to find, or what you find is hard for you in finding gold. Let's put it that way. Many of you have told me, hey, I'm trying these methods you mentioned, I'm finding gold, or I'm trying these methods you mentioned and I'm still having trouble. Okay, either one of those, the fact is that people are trying, and that's good, because that's one of the things that helps us overcome the difficulty and hardness in finding gold. But let's just kind of talk a bit about what might affect it. And for that, let's talk a little bit about this tonight's sponsor is Find More Gold. Okay. Look at SourdoughMiner.com, the GDU. That's the Gold Diggers Underground or Gold Prospectors Bonanza Club. Check it out. Look at that page. It's got a simple description and what's available in the package. So, but check it out, because that is one way to accelerate how fast you find gold. And we'll come back to that a little later. So why is gold so hard to find? Well, some of the reasons might be, for example, the location that you're looking is a bad location for a variety of reasons. Geologically, topologically, it might be bad because of glaciation, or it might be bad because there never was much gold in the first place. Okay, so the location has a problem. Second thing might be that the geology is wrong. The location's good, but the way the geology works in the area makes the gold particularly difficult to pull out, or gold that comes out is of a particular variant, such as a mixed pyrite, and is difficult to refine. That can be another aspect that makes the gold hard to find. Okay, but the geology and the mineralogy play a big role in understanding what it is that you're looking for, but they also play a big role in the difficulty in finding it, and understanding those things better helps you find it. And then the next thing I had on my list of things are the tools that are being used are not chosen correctly or are not tuned and set up correctly. And so we're blowing gold out the back end of our sluice, for example, or we're taking our gold pan and we're dumping that gold out as fast as we bring it in, or worse, we're going way too slow. That's actually the most common failure for a newbie, is they go and they worry about losing any speck of gold, when in reality what you want to be able to do is go fast, move through that material, and then go on to the next load. Get as many samples as you can, size those samples and track how much and where the gold's being found, but move them fast and move them carefully enough that you get all the gold, or most all the gold, out without losing any. And there's tricks to help improve that. Another thing is the understanding of the hydrogeomorphology. Oh, that's a big word. So hydro, water. Geo, well, geology and rocks and minerals and all that stuff. Morphology, the shape of things around you and how they affect the water flow when you're in high flood. Being able to see that and have that 20/20 vision about where the gold would move under those circumstances that make gold move is an important part of a prospector's vision and understanding, the skill set. And so that's one reason it's hard to find gold, is not really understanding where water would have pushed it in the first place, or if water even did push it, because it might be moved by a different agent altogether. You know, gold lode doesn't move with water directly, it moves with water in solution in the rocks, and it's a whole nother, form of geology. So let's talk about some of those things. The wrong minerals are there to make gold, and so we're spending all our time looking at something when the minerals are telling us it's not here. And so it's very important to be able to read those minerals quickly and know where you're starting to find trace minerals that are associated with gold, or you're finding trace minerals that are definitely telling you that this isn't likely to be the regime where gold is associated. It's not a good prospect. The stuff I'm finding is 99.9% leverite. Leverite there. Okay, so that's one other aspect. Another thing that's kind of interesting and common I see a lot is impatience and frustration. We all get it. Okay, we're learning to pan and our hands are getting tired, and so we kind of give up. No, don't give up. Learn what works. Learn to float the bowl to carry the load for you, rather than trying to hold it out of the water and do all the work and then put it back down, pick it up, put it back down. Learn the right skill set the right way so that you can make use of the thing. Or if you have a particular back issue, learn to find some way of mitigating that. The right igloo ice chest to sit on, or a padded chair, so that you can work the gold in the water without having to bend over and reach down if you need to. But find the way to make it work. All of this you're hearing is basically principles of adaptation. That is, taking the whys, the root causes of the problems that are stopping you from finding gold, and mitigating those whys, turning them into how, and using those procedures that are the how that help you find the gold in spite of, because it's difficult. That's why it's valuable and why it's rare. It's not just rare because it's not much of it on the earth. That's one aspect. It's rare because it's also difficult to actually locate and pull out unless you know what you're doing. Then it's not that bad, okay? So here's the deal. So impatience and frustration can lead to it being hard to find, okay? And then, of course, one of the biggest elements is a lack of repeatable, successfully proven procedures that can go through all of these things I've just discussed and give you the mechanism to kind of adapt and adjust to the different whys things are not working in this location. Because trust me, no two locations are alike. None. People will tell you, oh, that's just like this. No, every single gold location I've gone to, every single one of them, and it's not just here, it's on planet Earth, is different. There are similarities, no question, But when you get to those similarities and go down to the location where the actual gold is to be found, that's part of what makes it gold, is where you find it. Because sometimes it's in weird locations because something unusual, and almost always happens, that something unusual happened on that particular spot in that particular corner with that particular kind of gold. And so it requires you to kind of use all your faculties to figure that out. And again, that needs a repeatable and successful set of procedures to work that out. And that's something I really encourage you to get a grasp of, is how do I look at this stuff? What frame of mind and frames of process can I use to allow me to repeatedly and quickly pick up these things, like how to pan, how to set up your sluice, how to tune your dredge, like how to work around different regulatory organizations that have to give you licenses and access and all that stuff. How to file forms, how to talk to other prospectors and find information, how to gain access to other prospects that you might not have access to except that you work out a deal. Okay, all those things are part of the picture of prospecting and part of what you're facing when you're looking at finding gold. Even if you're finding gold on a public access site, you still want to know kind of the general, how do I do this, so that you can be successful. In fact, especially at public access sites, because they tend to be pretty well picked over. And that means that the gold is going to be even more rare. Doesn't mean it's not there. It means it's difficult. Now, with the storms we've just had, a lot of that's recharged. So good on you to go try those public access sites that everybody's given up on. Because guess what? You get more water running through. That hydrogeomorphology I just discussed is going to push that gold into position. And you're going to start finding the good stuff, like here, all over the location where people said they already picked through it. And that's because new stuff moves in and recharges in these floods and storms. It's the way the thing works. It goes back to the hydrogeomorphology aspect. So once you understand some of these pieces and start pulling more and more of them together, you're getting the bigger and bigger picture of how to make it so that gold is not so hard to find. Because that's your objective as a gold prospector. Your duty, Mr. Phelps, this is mission impossible, is to accept the responsibility to figure out how to find gold easier and easier by following a more and more skilled process as you go, learning those skills and practicing them, learning to use your intuit. By the way, your intuit is not the cognitive part. It's not all that knowledge. It's how that knowledge makes sense in a particular situation. How do you instinctively respond? How do you instinctively respond to something when you start seeing there's a problem with your gold pan and the gold you're pulling out? What are you going to do? You're going to shift up and change up the kind of material you're going to use? Or you're going to use a sifter to maybe sort it out and classify it because you're getting finer gold? That kind of thing is what you want to be able to do quickly and easily. And part of that comes from mentorship. That's attaching yourself with something like the GDU so that you have a chance to kind of connect with people who know. And it also comes in with other things like practice, that terrible word, the P word. Because what you need to do is gain the skills and then practice them so that you're proficient at them when they're needed. Fighter pilots don't learn to fly, on the first day and fight the next day. It just doesn't work that way. They go through long, arduous things, and they are weeded out because the guys who don't have the intuit to fly those machines are not trusted with them for good reason. Not everybody's born with that skill. And it's not necessarily a cognitive thing. It's a matching of cognitive and the ability to pull the cognitive together quickly and see pictures and make associations and decisions on the fly. Well, gold prospecting isn't quite as dynamic as a fighter pilot's cockpit, but it does require you to make decisions on the fly, and it requires you to understand where the gold will likely be to increase the probability that you're going to find it. If you simply, randomly go at it, you're going to find that in some locations that, you can find it pretty readily because of how that location works out and what you did randomly. In other locations, it's impossible. It isn't there. And the reality is maybe it's just over in that corner where you haven't looked because you don't understand the hydrodynamics, or you don't understand the associated minerals you're seeing and what they're telling you about gold. The story they tell can lead you to finding more and more gold. That's what that's all about. So this is Prospector Jess. I just thought I'd drop that note on you for tonight and kind of make you start thinking about procedures and sequences and how you might get more skilled and proficient and be able to find more gold so that it isn't so hard to find. That's the thing we want to do. Again, check out the Gold Prospectors Bonanza Club, the GDU, by going to that link right there, sourdoughminer.com/GDU/. Check it out. You see what it's in, what it's about. See if you're interested. That's okay. Let me know if you have any questions. Just give me a ping or ask a question on the comments below. It's okay. Also, if you have any questions about the business of being hard to find, you have things that you're finding difficult for you, let me know that too. We can all learn together. That's why we're here. So this is Prospector Jess, over and out for tonight. Let me check, make sure that we got comments coming through. We got 24. That's pretty good. Difficult for you. Let me know that too. We can all learn together. So, and there's Vic. Is there 3 main minerals where gold lives? There are many main minerals where gold lives, and that's one of the things that's kind of weird, is that gold, because of its nature, the whole field of chemistry is actually the field of electronics, believe it or not, electrons specifically. And so what's happening is the electrons tend to associate based on how they are attached to the atom, and they associate with other atoms or groups of atoms, which are called elements, okay, compounds, okay, and those compounds, like minerals, tend to have the ability to chemically interact or not with other compounds, and that's what makes those things associate. So under the right circumstances, gold may be found with magnetite and hematite, okay, and so you'll want to look for this guy a lot. Crunched down, he looks like black sand, okay? He also shows up whenever you take a magnet through your this is just a giant piece of it, but whenever you take a magnet through your black sands in your gold pan, they're little tiny fragments of this mineral, okay? The thing is that it can contain gold because it contains iron. Iron associates with gold. So that's one of the things you're looking for, is iron-related minerals. But you're also looking for anything that is auriferous, okay? Any kind of mineral that likes to go along with or loves to be found with gold. And so silver, platinum, zinc, lead, tin to some degree, chrome to some degree, sulfur compounds like ferric sulfur, which would be pyrites, and so on. And so once you start doing that, you'll find that there's a whole fan of minerals, and these are those things I talked about. If you look it up, you'll find a post I did a while back called Habitats or Associations of Gold with Other Minerals. Look it up, because that talks about this in detail, Vic. And so I just want to go there quickly. Brian says, please explain triangulation one day for people. Triangulation. Okay. Just for grins, can you comment, Brian, if you mean triangulation as in doing civil engineering and that kind of thing, or if you're referring to some other aspect of triangles, because triangulation and trigonometry are used heavily in civil engineering for surveys and surveying. And if that's what you're asking for, just let me know, and then that would be a topic beyond the scope of tonight, but we can certainly talk about that at one point. That would be a great one. Let's see, what's the I know I broke my drone, says Ray. Oh no. So Wayne says, a lot of death in my goal for gold, but I figured it all out. You guys got the disease too. Yeah, we all do. How did I come up with the name of Sourdough Miner? That's a good one, Vic. The name came out kind of a combination of effects. We actually had a couple of gold prospecting sites with other names, and some more prominent than others, like goldprospectingtools.com or .org or whatever. Okay, but anyway, long hunt. We ended up with hunting number 4 gold because we couldn't get the hunting FOR gold. Go figure. That's the way the web works. It's sort of squatters' rights. Other people weren't using it, but they had it. But we did find that we could get some other more humorous. So Sourdough Miner, we named after the sourdough that the miners used to use. A sourdough miner is an old guy, typically known for his use of sourdough and sourdough starter and that kind of stuff in the Alaskan gold fields, and they kind of lived on it. But they also got known as, you know, kind of the sourdough would tell stories and also have lots of skills and lots of knowledge to transfer, you know, if you connected with them, because they were the old guys in the field. So that's where this one got stuck. Now, the reason why we use Sourdough Miner and Hunting for Gold is a long story with Google. It's a different one. If you've ever run any kind of site operations for any period of time, you'll find from time to time weird stuff happens. And so something weird happened to Hunting for Gold with respect to how Google was looking at it. And we had to kind of say, okay, well, here's this thing we call Sourdough Miner. Got a problem with that? And they didn't. And they don't have a problem with the other one now either, and they couldn't tell us what they did. That's the other problem. But you have that happen and you're dependent on it as a business, it's a problem. It's a big problem in a hurry. And when people who run giant corporations can't tell you why there's a big problem, I find that kind of disingenuous. Because, you know, I don't ever try to run anything that doesn't meet their terms or your terms, for that matter. That's just how I do business. The problem is, you know, things happen, and a lot of it's Murphy. You know, little tickle happens and their sensors detect something weird, or their sensors are weird, you know, because they got software too, and all of a sudden your software doesn't meet their standards because, who knows, they couldn't tell me. They also told me they didn't think there was a problem, but they just couldn't tell me how to get it restarted. So we had to quickly shift to sourdoughminer.com, and as they say, the rest is history. So Sourdough Miner tends to be where I blog a lot. I used to blog a lot on Hunting for Gold. That's why over there's the other stories, different. But Sourdough Miner is where I've been blogging more recently and videoing more recently, although I need to do some updates with some of this latest stuff. Like, we're probably 100 videos behind. But anyway, that's how it got started. Good question. Let's see. Great show. Very informative. Great work. Thanks, Vic. And Adam Bond, political, me? Political? Yeah. I actually have politics in the family, one wing of it. You can guess which wing that was, or is. And so I avoid it like the plague, if I can, although I have my opinions, man. As somebody used to say, Jess, you're sure opinionated. Well, I am, and we all are. I just tend to be willing to share it. I just don't want to fight over it. I do not like fights. I'm not real fond of that stuff. It tends to screw up the logic in our brains. It confounds the old lizard brain part of our brain, which is what causes us to fight or flight. And I hate that, because then you don't think carefully and make good decisions. Yeah, Vic says Google and the internet can be a pain. Yes, that's right. And Ray Brown says, awesome. Thanks, Ray. Appreciate that. And so that's it for tonight. I think we've kind of covered what we were going to cover, which is, why is gold so hard to find? Like I said earlier, check out the GDU offer there and see what you think. We've also got something coming up for Independence Day, so be ready, be watching out, and we'll let it go at that. Catch you then. Good prospecting and good night. Prospector Jess, over and out. Take it over. See you tomorrow.